Yeah, I'm not much of a whiskey drinker myself.
Mate, the women love it, mate. No, they don't. In fact, if I have a sip of this before my daughter goes to bed and I give her a kiss goodnight, she's like, "Dad, what is that smell?" She can smell like the breath.
Yeah, mate. I know what you mean, mate. I tell you what, you listen to me, mate. I'm still waiting on my wig to arrive in the mail, mate. It's supposed to arrive by between the 1st and the 8th of September, mate. You know what I mean, mate. The girls, mate, they go nuts for these glasses, mate.
Welcome to Onboard for Delivery.
Don't tell me you ordered those. Did you buy those for this podcast, Paul?
Yeah, I got them from Cotton On, $10, and I'm waiting on the wig to come from China's On. So that should be here before the 8th of September.
Just before the podcast started, it's about 11:30 at night right now. We planned to start this at 10:30, but right before it started, Paul just throws a glass of water across his desk and destroys his speakers. So we've been faffing about.
Not just any speakers, Tim. These are Bose speakers. Destroyed
if you know what
them
I mean.
Completely with a glass of water. I just, you know what happened? Let's tell the full story, shall we, Tim? You called me through Zoom to get this party started, and I went to turn my mic on so I could chat to you before I missed out on the phone call, and I knocked the glass or the jug, the mug, whatever you want to call it, and water spilled all over my speakers, all over my recording equipment, everything. And hopefully I've been able to salvage it and it dries up. Hopefully when it dries up, it'll get back to work, if you know what I mean. But, well, time will tell. This is for those of you who have just joined us, this is how we start our podcast. We talk about random crap. This is just have fun editing this, Tim.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the tech podcast where we talk about Bachelor. We do impressions. We do everything
TV
but
shows.
everything but. In fact, tonight I had a friend, Ryan. Shout out to Ryan. He asked me. He goes, "Oh, Mr. Tech Man, what sort of RAM should I get for my computer?" And I was like, I don't really know anything about RAM. Like, I don't know. We do the tech podcast, but don't ask me for advice.
The only thing I know about RAM, Tim, is they have to be shorn a couple of times a year for their wool, but that's about all I know about rams.
Yeah.
Do you know, I had a client of mine talk to me today about what our podcast is about, and I wasn't quite sure what to say. I said it's a tech podcast, but by the way, you're not going to learn anything. But if you didn't get my last dad joke about RAM, Tim, today's class session, if it were, what is it? Podcast. What are we doing? Today's episode. Today's episode is a Father's Day special. So the odd dad joke, the odd dad story, and maybe you can relate to some of the things that we talk about. But sit back and enjoy the ride for Onboard for Delivery.
And if
So,
I'm
Tim,
your dad, well, first of all, if I'm your dad, and there could be, let's face it, there could be plenty of people that refer to me as dad, or daddy, if you know what I mean. If you're out there, for Father's Day, I wouldn't mind another bottle of Ardbeg 10. It's running a little bit low at the moment, if you know what I mean. So
Yes, daddy.
Well, I don't get the daddy thing.
I don't know. So I actually, for the first time ever, I planned for this podcast. I did some research. I spoke to Mum about, some stories about Dad. I jotted down all the memories that I had of our father, who's my dad is the same dad as your dad. And I wrote down all these sort of ideas on what it's like to be a parent myself and the things that I do now that our dad also did. And I wrote them down on my phone. And then I decided to upgrade my phone today. And I've been transferring data from one phone to another, and both phones are out of action. So I've lost all my list. I've lost all my information. I've got nothing to go on. So this should be pretty much like every other podcast, Tim, that we don't plan.
Well, exactly. Well, I did some planning too. So there's my notes, and just going to throw them away. Who cares?
Yeah, who cares about the notes, Tim? But let me ask Tim, what is the most? Let's be honest. We're both dads here, and it can be a challenging time. And there was a time where you weren't a dad, and you're growing up as a child. But now that you are a dad with a child, what would you say is the most rewarding thing about having a kid?
Oh man, I think seeing their reaction So they're so excited about everything. It was my daughter's birthday the other day, and
Oh, happy birthday.
yeah, actually yesterday, and I bought her a Lego set, and she guessed it. So I told her several weeks ago. She asked for clues. I'm like, what am I getting for my birthday? And I didn't want to tell her exactly, so I gave her all these clues. I said it involves characters. It's got lots of colours. It's got lots of pieces. It comes in a box. Like, she kept saying, one more clue. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to give it away. Anyway,
I think you gave it away, Tim, with the hundreds of pieces, colourful, kids' toy. I think that gave it away, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't the best. And she guessed it exactly a couple of weeks ago. And I kept trying to put her off the scent. I kept saying, it could be just a bag of balls, if you know what I mean. Those colourful balls that kids play with. They put them in
the ones that puppies play with in little pools.
Like
and yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, that sort of bag of balls. And where was I? And yeah, so this is so inappropriate. So anyway, she guessed the present exactly. Yesterday, she's screaming. She's like, "Oh my God, it's what I wanted!" So just seeing their reaction is the best thing about being a dad. And what about for you, Paul? What's the best thing for you?
Well, I mean, you're talking about seeing her reaction when you gave her a present. The reaction that my kids give me all the time is they just roll their eyes. Whether it's a bad dad joke or something I'm excited about that they just couldn't. One thing I'm learning is that my kids, I've got 3, 2 boys and a girl, and they don't share the same interests that I share. So things I'm passionate about, I expect them to be passionate about, but they're not. And there's no excitement there from them. And I tell them, I sit them down and say, look, before I show you this, please pretend to be excited. I've turned into that dad, the dad that's not cool but wants to be cool, and I'm starting to do things that our father did with us that I thought I would never turn into. And I'll give you an example, and maybe some of you can relate to this story. But the other day I was watching TV. I think the footy was on, and I told the kids I wanted the TV and I wanted to watch it, and then I must have fallen asleep after the first or second quarter, and with the remote on my stomach, as you do, and then but I was sort of in one of those, those modes where you're not fully asleep, but you're not really with it, so you close your eyes, but you can still hear what's going on, and then someone changed the channel. And I did that. Oh no! I'm watching that, and then I woke up and I put it back on the footy. And the reality is, I wasn't watching that. I was hardcore asleep. But I remember stories of Dad used to sit on the couch watching the news or whatever, and we just flick the channel, and then he'd just do his little I was from his recliner chair. I was watching that, and then he'd change it back, and then he'd fall back asleep.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're getting older, and I mean, yesterday for my daughter's birthday, she wanted Domino's pizza. That's her favorite type of pizza. So
Domino's.
We ordered Domino's, and we picked it up, and before so we ordered it, and I went on the app to order it, and it was just so complicated on the app. I'm like, oh, I want to get this pizza, and what crust, and is that the one that's garlic, or is this the one that's garlic, and what's that mean? And I'm just like, I want to call. Why can't I just call somebody? The kids of today, they're all using apps. I just want to call someone on the phone and order a pizza the old-fashioned way.
Talk face to face.
So yeah, you're getting old when you go. You start wanting to. I want to call somebody instead of using the app to get the pizza.
There was a time, Tim, that you created a video game from the ground up. Do you remember when you made I think it was a cricket game? Back in the day, do you remember that?
That was in grade 6, Paul.
You created a program, and now you're struggling to order pizza from an app. So things are certainly working for you, aren't they, Tim?
Yeah, yeah. What's going on? So, Paul, okay, well, so this is the Father's Day special, but it's also a tech podcast. You know what, Paul? We haven't even spoken about Bachelor, and by the way, I have not seen tonight's episode,
no,
so do not want to know a thing. So
I won't say anything, but of the ending.
for those tuning in waiting for Bachelor news, unfortunately, we won't be able to say any today because I haven't seen the episode. But I will say, and I had something on my mind, and it's totally gone. But yeah, tech podcast. So dads and technology. So we've got lots of memories of our dad and technology. And for me, personally, the one that stands out the most was playing video games. Now, this is back circa 1995, I reckon. And we were playing Red Alert, which, for those that don't know, is a real-time strategy game where it's a top-down view and you can see a base. You build up a big base and you build up all these tanks and helicopters and planes and infantry, and then you go and attack your opponent and destroy their base and just blow them up. And they're doing the same thing at the same time, and you've got to harvest resources and get enough money to buy all these things. And so I used to play Dad against Dad playing Red Alert, and this is old school. So we used to have a computer up each end of the house, and we would have a 20-meter Ethernet cable, connected, like going down the hallway and into the computer. And that's how we used to play. And we used to play for hours. We would build up a base, and Dad always did the long game. So he'd always build up the base nice and slowly, make it beautiful. He'd like make it the most beautiful base, and he would take his time and finesse it. Whereas I would just get all the resources and get as much money as I could and build as many tanks and helicopters and planes and basically just tank rush him every time. And he kept thinking, this time I've worked him out. I'm going to beat him. He could never beat me because I would just get more resources. So, that's one of my favorite memories of Dad and playing in technology as a kid. Have you got any technology Dad-related memories, Paul, that come to mind?
Well, just to touch on the memory you just mentioned, Tim. I remember, and I did this as well, but I remember you used to tank rush him, but then you would actually leave your base, as in your personal base in the home, leave the computer, and you would go and sit next to the computer watching him be annihilated by you. So you'd be sending all the tanks to his base, and then you would go and sit next to him and just watch. And he'd be sitting there looking at you going, what are you doing? And you're just watching him be annihilated. And it's one of those moments that with my kids, I'm noticing that they get such an achievement of beating you at whatever it is. If it's a race, if it's a game, if it's anything, they just get such a rush from beating you, which the kids do a little bit because my gaming is sort of, gone backwards a little bit. I don't do that much gaming, but I have been doing a lot of Flight Simulator 2020 at the moment. For those of you out there playing that game, it is amazing. And if you're not playing it, get onto it. But I've been doing loop-de-loops through the Grand Canyon and flying over Uluru, Ayers Rock in the centre of Australia, and I'm loving the views and chilling out watching that. But in regards to Dad and technology, I don't have that many memories of the tech side other than what you're talking about of playing, Warcraft and Warcraft 2 and Warcraft 3 and all these games. But I do remember a lot of stories about Dad. I'm trying to think of what the story was.
The watch?
You can edit the next 20 seconds out that I'm thinking about this because
this is the watch story when they went on holidays and he researched the watch. Is that where you're going?
No, I was going to talk about when we were at Merimbula. I'm not sure if you remember Merimbula, and it was like we were in this little holiday cabin, so to speak, 2 stories. So we were at the top story, and we went to bed early that night because we were on holidays in Merimbula, and we were kids, so we went to bed early, and Mum and Dad decided to go out on the balcony. I'm not sure what they were doing. Oh. Anyway, and what happened was as they closed the door to the balcony, the door locked, and they were stuck out there. And Dad had to climb down, like the second story of the balcony to the ground floor to bang on our window to get us to get out of bed and open the door. I never found out what they were doing up there though.
Well, I forgot about that story, Paul, but I do remember Merimbula. We used to go on these road trips up and back, and we used to have to do the Ks in the car to get, for tax reasons, you had to drive a certain number of Ks. And it was like a horror show. You had to drive to Merimbula, then we had to drive to Queensland once, and you just get on each other's nerves. Paul and I'd be in the back seat getting on each other's nerves. But we had this thing where every person would take it in turns, and they'd have a CD. So for those that don't know, a CD is this round thing. And so anyway, we used to take it in turns. So every person in the car would take it in turns of what music would play. So, but the thing was, Paul, I've got a bone to pick. Paul would suck up to Mum, and so when it came to Paul's turn, he'd put the 50s and 60s classics on.
Or Shania Twain.
Paul, I'm like, you're not into that. Why? He only did that. He did that for two reasons. One, to suck up to Mum, because it was Mum's favourite CD. And two, to annoy me, because he knew that I hated it. And he knew that I was into metal and all that sort of stuff. And I just hated it. And it would annoy me that he would put that on. And then when it's my turn, I would then annoy the rest of the car by putting on something like Rammstein. So if you haven't heard Rammstein, it's this German metal band where the lead singer sings like, Du hast. Dad hated it. He thought it was evil. And so the whole car hated my music. And Paul was the darling of the car, putting on the 50s and 60s classics that probably Mum and Dad probably both liked. So that's one of my memories from those trips. And
yeah, I don't think that was on purpose, Tim. But I do remember those long car trips, and I do remember Shania Twain. Man, I feel like a woman.
Dad loved that. That was Dad's favourite. That was Dad's favourite album.
Do you know what I've noticed? Let's talk about the difference in parenting. Do you remember when we were younger, and we used to, Dad used to get home from work, and Mum would shuffle him inside and let Dad have half an hour. Let Dad have half an hour. Don't annoy him. Don't hassle him. Just let him sit on his chair. He had a recliner chair. Read the paper. Just relax, and you just keep it quiet. Don't be too loud. Right now, I walk in the door. Teresa's high-fiving me. You're it. Tag. And I'm taking over. And it's like I heard Dave O'Neill say this joke. You know how you've got the those fire danger warning signs that say, red hot fire danger. He goes, you need one of those on the outside of your house to let you know what's happening inside there, because you walk in after a long day at work and you think, oh, I can't wait to get inside and relax. And you walk in and there's kids flying off the roof, and it's just, homeschooling gone nuts. Yeah. But Dad used to love his recliner chair, didn't he?
He did, and he used to sit in it, and he used to watch the TV, and Dad was a big home theatre geek. And that's where Paul and I get all this technology researching and home theatre and video and audio sort of stuff from. I remember, Dad used to buy the latest and greatest TV. And I remember one year, it was probably something like 1998, 1999, maybe early 2000s. I can't remember. I think it was before the Olympics. So I think it was probably 1999. Yeah. And he bought one of the first widescreen TVs, those 16:9 TVs. It was huge, a big CRT. It was it weighed like 80 kilos. Weighed as much as, well, probably me. And,
Change.
It weighed, I'm not going to go, I won't go. I could, no. So it weighed about as much as me. I weigh about 80 kilos. And anyway, so it was this massive, huge TV. It was also high definition, but I think it was probably 1080i at best.
Yeah.
It didn't do 720p,
576p or something like that.
It might have been even it wasn't like today's HD. It was like regular. It was one of the first regular HD, and I remember we used to watch Big Brother on it. Big Brother looked amazing. So circa early 2000s, those early seasons of Big Brother, which, by the way, look them up on YouTube. You can find the entire Big Brother seasons from those early days. And they are some of the footage, like when they're meeting the housemates on episode 1, the footage is appalling. And it's amazing how far TV has come from those early, it looks like someone's holding a handy cam, to today, where you've got bachelor sets that look amazing with fairy lights and that sort of thing, just like this, if you know what I mean. Anyway, where was I going with this? So I asked Dad, how much did it cost? Because it was like an expensive TV. And he goes, just don't tell your mother. It was a bit more than she's expecting. And obviously, Paul, we haven't learnt that trait from Dad, have we? So how much has your camera? How much have you spent on camera gear? I know Teresa, your fiance, will be watching this.
Yeah, no. To be honest, let's get it out in the open. Let's be honest. I think the camera was $50. In fact, I've had this joke with Teresa. My biggest fear in life is that when I die, she will sell all the things for the price that I told her I paid for them, and that's one of my biggest fears, because it's let's just be honest. Maybe not the exact price that we've spoken about, but look, she's bought handbags, before, and not told me where it came from or how much it was. So that's just just a way of life, really. But that was a long story to get around that, Tim. But
just to set you up for a joke,
that we don't change. I find myself saying things that my parents said that that I thought I would never turn into, and I've turned into the dad. And let's just point the question, Tim. This is a question without notice. But I just want you to just give me, you won't be able to think on the spot now, but give me one of your best dad jokes.
How many tickles does it take to make an octopus laugh? Tentacles.
Well,
have you got one, Paul?
Well, Tim, do you know that octopuses, if you know what I mean, don't actually have 10 tentacles? I believe they're legs. They have 6 legs and 2. We can research this later. More on biology after this. Well, look, I used to tell Dad jokes, and when I did, he laughs. That's my it's a pretty bad joke, actually. And I'm pretty sure I stuffed that up.
Well, I used to want to be a train driver, but then I got sidetracked.
Well, I know we're telling dad jokes now, but I actually wanted to be a comedian when I was older, but I was afraid everyone would laugh at me.
Yeah. Well, this week I went to the dentist. Do you know what time it was? 2:30.
2:30. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm not sure if the beard's all right, but I didn't really like it at the start, but it's really grown on me.
Onboard for Delivery, bringing you dad jokes by the hour.
Change.
So Onboard for Delivery, bringing you Bachelor news by the minute. Anyway, so I was expecting a change there. I think with dad jokes, like, our kids are quite young and they laugh at them, so it encourages us. I said to my daughter, why did Jim fall out of a tree? And she goes, why? And I go, Jim was a fish. And then I said, why did Jill fall out of a tree? And she's like, Jill was a fish? And I go, no, someone threw a fridge at her. She laughed at these jokes. She thought that, she goes, Dad, that is hilarious. So when they set the level there, we just get the encouragement. We can't help it. So
I think though a good dad joke is when they don't laugh. When your kids go, oh, that's how you know it's you've succeeded in the dad joke arena. If I give my kids a joke and their first reaction is, oh, really? I know straight away that I've hit the mark, which happens a lot.
Yeah. So, Paul, technology-wise this week, let's just sidetrack things for a moment. So, I know you've been working on some macro photography this week. So Paul's been struggling with macro photography. He's been saying, the photos are blurry. I can't figure it out. He's changing all the settings. He's changing all the settings. He's been doing tutorials online. He's been doing everything. He can't figure it out. And he held it up today on the camera. We're doing a Zoom meeting, and he's showing me the lens. I hadn't really seen it close up. He just wanted to show me what it looked like. And I go, what's that button? What's that button on the side that says stabilization? And why is it turned off? And he's like, huh? What button? And I thought that was on. I go, well, it's turned off. And then you flicked it on, and then what happened then, Paul?
What happened then? Well, I took some of the best macro photos I've ever taken in my entire life, let me tell you. It's funny, when I first got this lens, I must have thought it was off and I flicked it on, but it was on and I flicked it off. And because I had done that consciously, I never felt the need to change it. But you would know from the photos I sent you tonight that it was certainly the difference between the photos I've been taking and the beautiful, amazing macro photos that I ended up taking. So you've heard it right here, folks. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the right ones.
Yeah. So for those interested in the nerdy stuff, we're talking about the Sony 90mm 2.8 full frame G Master. Is it a G Master lens?
Yeah, no, it's funny. So it's not a G Master lens, it's a G lens, which by all accounts is a really good quality lens. But as you learn about lenses and you become more a lens snob, you start to say things like, it's just a G lens. It's just a G lens. It's not a G Master, even though it's a stellar lens. But no, it's not. I don't think they make a G Master macro lens. I believe this is the macro lens that is recommended by Sony users and people around the world. So it's a great lens, but G Master is usually reserved for more of the nature photography and the longer lenses, that more zoom or telephoto lens, as you would say, which is what you need if you want to take a photo of objects that are either very small or very far away, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So Paul likes the G Master. I prefer the G String. So what besides macro photography, Paul? What else have you been trying this week in the world of technology?
Well, yeah, macro has been the main thing. I've been doing some videos with my kids for their schoolwork. So when they're when homeschooling asks for a quick video on a skit that they plan during the week, I'm not recording that on the phone. I'm doing a professionally edited cinematic, as you saw tonight, Tim. It was a professional edited program with music and sound effects and different shots and angles and all sorts of stuff. I want that to be the best video in the school. So that's one thing I've been doing. Playing a bit of flight sim as well. Like I said earlier, Santa Monica Pier and flying around the world, and especially during COVID, because we can't fly anywhere, we can't get out of the house. So to play a game that allows you to explore the world and things like that is really worthwhile and really fun. So that's been great. And hanging out with the family. But yeah, it hasn't been a massive tech week, to be honest. I've been busy at work, training dogs and other things, so it's been a bit hectic. What about you? Yeah. I see you've actually changed your location from last week.
Yeah, so I'm actually back in the original location with the blue. If anyone's seen episodes 1, 2, and 3, or maybe 4, I've had the dark blue and light blue backgrounds, and this is my little studio, and I'm basically back in there. I tried moving into a different room, but the amount of faffing about to get all the lighting and cameras set up in the other room, and then the Wi-Fi didn't work properly in that room. So I've decided it's going to be a lot easier to move everything back. So I've tried to replicate that same look with the fairy lights and, the Bachelor type look, basically with the candles in the background. It's just inspired by The Bachelor. So yeah, I've spent a bit of time getting this room working. Also been working on lining myself up in the video in the rule of thirds. So if anyone knows about photography, there's a rule of thirds, which means you don't just stand in the middle, probably like this. You don't just stand in the middle of the camera. It looks very boring. You try to stand in the third. So hopefully I've got my left eye right in the third, and that should look more cinematic and more Bachelor-like. So I've been focusing on that. And the other thing I've been focusing on is trying to get the right exposure. Because last week I found myself exposing myself to the camera. Overexposing myself to the camera. And so what I've been trying to do instead is to try to get a better exposure on camera. So not be too over bright and nuked. Last week I was nuked. My face was like bright white. So the way I've done that is by using a monitor that I've got plugged into the camera. And I'm using a thing called false colors, which I'd never looked at before. And what false colors does is it shows you your image, and it shows you how bright every part of the image is. And it ranges from black to white, but it has different colors for different ranges. And the human skin should be somewhere in that 50, 60, 70% range. Whereas last week I was more like in the 80 or 90% range. It was really bright. So hopefully today I look a little bit more natural, a bit more Bachelor-like, if you will, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that's what I've been working on this week, Paul. It's been a bit of a nerdy week. And actually, apart from that, also have been getting into filming the inside of the house. It's been raining, and I just want to try to work out how you can walk around the house and do like real estate type videography and walk around corners and that sort of thing. So that's been keeping me busy as well.
So we just got a text message just came through, Tim, while you were talking, and they were just asking whether or not you expose yourself to the camera on a regular basis.
I wouldn't say a regular basis, but I did go through a fair while where I used to put my camera in my bedroom. Now, the reason for this is if you've bought a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, any sort of big bulky camera with a lens, you tend to just leave it in the bag and just use your camera phone because it's just a lot easier. It's just easier to do that. You've always got it with you. And I thought I need to force myself to use the camera. So I used to just set it up in my bedroom. So that was always a bit awkward when you have a Tinder date. But nowadays, though, I've got my camera set up in my studio. So there we go, Paul.
So are you happy with your new studio?
I'm pretty happy. I need
Change.
to do a bit. I'm never really fully satisfied. I need to. It's getting there. It is getting there. It is. I need a bit more black in the background to cover up some of the gaps. You can see I've got some red acoustic panels over this side. It's a little bit cramped, but overall I can't complain. It's getting along the way to have that bachelor look.
So you've been talking a lot about The Bachelor. You need more black. You've been exposing yourself to the camera. Are we still talking about a podcast, Tim?
This is a tech podcast, and we're available on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and all other popular podcast networks.
I did have some feedback last week from the podcast from one of our viewers who said that I tend to put an upward inflection on my words, and that I need to work on that. And so far in this episode, I have noticed myself doing it a lot. And I really can't help it. It just happens. But I really need to work on that.
Don't tell me that. Was that like a 4-year-old kid or someone that gave you that advice, that gave you that feedback, and now you've been spewing all week over that advice from a little kid? That
came from someone who does work in television and radio. So
someone that knows what they're doing.
So I need to work on my upward inflection to make sure that I talk more down because it sounds more authoritative.
Well, I do remember last week when you spoke. It wasn't you, but we had Uncle Guido on the show, and he definitely spoke with a downward inflection. He was very authoritative.
Yeah, well, he's in bed tonight. He went to bed a bit early. He wasn't feeling the greatest, but from all accounts, I believe he wants to be on a podcast again. He had such a great time in a couple of weeks, so look out for that. He's ready to go. He really wants to join again, but these 2 episodes just weren't suitable for him. But I think we wrap it up there, Tim. We've got plenty to talk about our dads and plenty of information that we've gone. But thanks for joining us on Onboard for Delivery. Make sure to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all your favourite streaming devices. And don't forget to subscribe and thumb us down below on YouTube so you can keep up to date on all our videos and things like that. But until next time,
it's good night. From Onboard for Delivery. Good night. That's a wrap.